Hey there friends, stay Paulides, Canine Missing Project. This is Huck. She's the beauty of the farm. She's a good girl. Oh, scratch me right there, Dad. Oh yeah, that's the spot. Oh, you got it. You got it. Don't stop. Oh, she's a good girl. Yeah, it's a good girl. Yeah, she's a good pup. She's a good girl, yeah. Yeah. I got it, didn't I? Yes. Oh, some more, Dad. Give me the paw. That means some more. She gives me the paw a lot. Yeah, she's a good girl. You a good girl? Yeah. Don't go anywhere. The audience wants you to hang around, okay? Okay. So, friends, remember, Missing 411 National Parks, our latest movie. That is UFOs right next to Mount Rainier. You can watch it right now on Amazon. You can rent it for next to nothing. Please go over, rent it, and leave a review. Reviews are important. They're really important. So, if you do that, I'd be forever grateful. Thank you. All right, there's a couple things going on this summer. And catch up on some national park news that is important. You know, last year we spent about 4 or 5 months in Washington State at Mount Rainier and Olympic National Parks making that movie I just showed you. I just saw this, and this is a little disturbing. August 12th, Olympic National Park, Washington. A rabid bat was found at Olympic National Park near Staircase Bridge on August 9th. At approximately 2 p.m., a bat swooped down onto an unidentified woman and was temporarily caught in her hair. That wouldn't be good. This individual is at risk for rabies and should seek health care immediately, as well as contact the Mason County Health Department. The bat also swooped at other visitors in the area, and it is unknown whether other people had contact with that bat. Anyone who may have had contact with a bat in that area, even if not bitten, should contact a healthcare provider and their local health department promptly to determine whether treatment is needed. If you are concerned that your pet, for example dog, may have had direct contact with the bat, contact your local veterinarian is recommended. Rabies is a deadly virus that can affect any mammal, but bats are the most common carriers of rabies. It is usually transmitted through the bite or scratch of an infected animal or through contact with its saliva. Bat bites and scratches can be very small and may not always be visible or painful, so anyone who believes they may have had direct contact with a bat should speak with a healthcare provider immediately to evaluate the risk of rabies exposure. Rabies is preventable if prompt, appropriate medical care is received immediately after exposure. Washington State is home to many bats, and a vast majority of which are healthy and vital to our ecosystem. Bats eat so many things. I mean, all the bugs in the air, where would we be without them? Visitors should never touch or handle bats or any wild animals. If you encounter a bat, dead or alive, keep your distance and notify park staff. One reason I read you that is a lot of times you'll come through the woods and you'll come across an animal that looks ill or sick or something. And because we are nurturing people, we think we want to come down and help the animal survive. It's a good reminder that a lot of those animals that may be sick out there, may be sick with a type of virus that's deadly to us or rabies. And while animals sometimes don't understand we're trying to help them, they can hurt us severely. So the best thing to do, contact a park ranger, get the GPS coordinates of where that animal's at, and get them to go get them. Don't you do it. Rangers carry these very thick leather gloves. They can't be bit through, they can't be scratched through, and they can handle any kind of animal. Very sad story. Very sad. Big Bear Lake in Southern California. For the last several years, I've watched two bald eagles, mom and a dad, raise probably 5 or 6 bald eagles from egg to flying away. And the mom's name was Jackie. Jackie was found on the ground nearby after being attacked by other bald eagles. And they tried to nurture her back to health. And they tried for several weeks, and she ended up dying. That pair of bald eagles were the best mom and dad. At a local pizza parlor here in town, they had they had a special camera on that nest 24/7. And you could always watch them, how they interacted with their young ones. It was amazing. It was amazing, seriously. And how the young ones grew to a point where they started to flex their wings and wanted to fly and eventually flew. And to see her pass away is sad, really. I mean, it's the way life is in the wilderness. It's brutal, but sad. Like I said, more bad news out of the state of Washington. Mount Rainier, the other part of that movie. That's where it was filmed. Fire crews are cutting trees at Sunrise Visitor Center. The National Park Service released an update Sunday on the Grand Park 2 fire, stating the fire is located 3 miles north of the Sunrise Visitor Center at Mount Rainier National Park and estimated to be at 300 acres. The fire was 0% contained at this time. The National Interagency Fire Center currently has the Grand Park fire listed as 312 acres. On Saturday, the park closed the Sunrise area and White River Campground, had all visitors escorted from the area, and park employees were sent home. You know, one thing I never understood, this isn't political, so don't jump on that, but our government wastes so many billions of dollars on garbage. Why don't they invest a small fraction of that to dedicated aerial firefighting for each region of the U.S. to save our forests and our lands? Really? Why not? It's as though they want it to burn sometimes. And I hear the arguments, oh, you know, it needs to burn. No. That was the old theory. The new theory is, no, we're not letting it burn. It takes hundreds of years to get those forests back that you and I visited. If they're gone, our relatives aren't going to see them in their lifetime. We need them saved. The statement also says the White River Road from State Route 410 to the White River Campground and the Sunrise Road from the White River Campground to Sunrise, as well as all trails leading from these roads, are closed. Wildland firefighters are actively working to suppress the fire and protect life and property. There's likely a good reason, she told the news, that firefighting has been limited, but it is a very loved and special location to many. When I noticed the row of trees on the ground, I just kept refreshing and saw them cut the rest of them down. What they had to do is they cut a series of trees near the visitor center because they're trying to slow the progression of the fire. And if the trees are there, fire goes up the tree and it's like a big candle, and it'll set sparks and blowing embers miles away, like onto the top of the visitor center. So they had to cut the trees down. The News Tribune reached out to Mount Rainier National Park on Monday about the tree cutting at Sunrise and the possible steps the Park Service is taking to protect the visitor center, but had not received a reply. Greenwater and Green Crystal Mountain Fire Chief Paul Sowers, who was not involved in fighting the fire, offered this to the news about tree mitigation. It's fairly common practice when you're planning a structural protection, Sowers said. You need to hope for the best and plan for the worst. Of course, we're concerned about the evacuation and saving lives, so the next step would logically be to increase the structural protection. I get it. I understand. In fact, excuse me, There's a lodge on the east side of Glacier National Park. It is epically gorgeous. I took a friend there last week. And it's supported by giant timbers inside, lined up on each side. You won't see anything like it anywhere. It's just out of this world beautiful. And so our lodges inside these national parks have to be protected at all costs. And I'm serious. Because once they burn down, they'll never come back the way they were. All right, I've got 2 missing person cases for you today. The first one is that of Upper New York. Yes, Upper New York. The Adirondack region. I've spoken about it many times in the past. There are several missing person cases out of this region of Upper New York. Howard Kirby, 38 years old, missing November 17th, 1941. He lived in Clayton, New York with his wife and 5 kids. Some stories say he lived in Chalmont. Howard went deer hunting, and here's the issue. Did not give his family the exact location where he was going to go. He drove out and said he'd be back late Sunday night. He didn't arrive, and his wife reported him missing. She called the state police, told them the approximate location he'd be. That approximate location was Cranberry Lake. This is the 5 Points Wilderness in Upper New York. Here's the High Peaks Wilderness in New York. Here's Lake Placid, New York, where they have the Olympics. This entire area in here, you can see all the blue. Lots of lakes, ponds, rivers. Well, he was near or on the verge of Cranberry Lake. Well, the police got the bulletin on the car, knew approximately where it was, but they had to find it before they could search. Well, the state police started searching. 3 days later, they find his car. And it's pulled off the side of the road into a little turnout in the woods near Cranberry Lake. It looked exactly like a hunter would leave his car when he went into the woods to hunt. Nobody was around the car. Nobody looked like it had been there. There's leaves and things on it, so they knew it had been there a few days. So that was on November 20th. November 21st, Howard's father, Joseph, and his brother Arthur, along with Howard's wife and their 2 older daughters, went to the scene to assist in the search and rescue. This area is pretty remote. There's not a big population base out there, and as I've stated before, when you disappear in an area without a big population, there's not going to be a lot of people searching. On November 22nd, the New York Department of Conservation sent an airplane in there to search, and for 1941, that's saying something. The district regional manager was Moses LaFontaine. He led the search and rescue. And he had 20 plus game wardens, hunters, family members searching. And the search centered on the Wanakina area of Cranberry Lake, the area from the car where he would have walked into. On November 23rd, they had 25 searchers, 1 airplane, and they were grid searching on the ground. They commented that there were a lot of swamps, a lot of water, but they had decent weather that was assisting in the ongoing search. One of the things about this area that has always intrigued me is this is not like 10, 12, 14,000 foot mountains.
There's a mountain in that area that's more than 5,500 feet. Yet people are consistently going missing there, without ever being found. November 24th, there was another search ongoing in the Adirondacks at the same time, in an area called Big Moose. And on that day, the hunter walked out into the middle of the search area, saved himself, and all of those searchers pulled out and searched the second half of the day for Howard, which was good. It gave him a lot more people. And now there was only one person missing in this area. I always find it intriguing when multiple people go missing in the same area at the same time, when the weather is not bad. November 25th, 9 days since Howard went missing, they had found no clues. Everyone was frustrated. The family didn't know what to think. LaFontaine made a statement to the press that he had sat down with the family, and they and the family agreed that continuance of the search would be useless. That was the quote. And they confirmed that he entered the wilderness on November 16th. I sat there and I thought, can you imagine Mrs. Kirby driving home with her two older daughters, thinking about her life from that point forward? No breadwinner, no husband. Where's the money going to come from to live? And how's she going to raise her kids? Syria also has a lot of UFO sightings. A very long history of UFO sightings. The best I could tell, I searched forward for 6 years. There was nothing in there about Howard ever being found. Where'd he go? Well, that's the $1 million question on all these cases, right? You've got a subgroup of a hunter, that's him, in an area with lots of water, a deer hunter, no tracks, no nothing. Where could he go? Okay, the next case. Walter Mitchell, 23 years old, missing February 1st, 1981. He was coon hunting with friends outside Thibodaux, Louisiana. Hunting in the Bayou Sec region west of the Mississippi River. So this is New Orleans, Bayou Sec, Mississippi. So he's inside this region right here hunting. This is the Gulf. Water everywhere, as you can see in here. Got it? Between here and here, hunting here. Okay? He had a rifle and he had a lighter to sustain himself. Remember, I've always told you, and I know there's some hunters that don't even know this, but as a hunter, if you're ever lost, you fire off 3 rounds in a row and you sit still. I recommend every hunter carry 21 rounds. And every hour and a half, fire off boom, boom, boom. 3 rounds in rapid succession. Everyone is taught in firearms school that means someone is in urgent need of help. Well, on February 1st at 2 p.m., 3 men, Walter and his 2 friends, were hunting for coons, all hunted within shouting distance of one another. And then at that 2 p.m. time, it started to rain super hard. So the guys yelled at each other to go back to the car and they were going to get out. Walter responded, "Yeah, I hear you, I'll be coming." 2 out of the 3 guys got to the car, waited waited. Walter didn't come back. So they shouted, honked their horn, nothing. And they were wet and cold. So what they decided to do, they were going to drive a half an hour back into town, get a change of clothes, come back for him. They went into town, got some food, brought it back out. At 9 p.m. they reached the site again, honked, yelled, honked their horn, nothing. They stayed out until late that night, and then at 9 a.m. on February 2nd, their friends reported Walter missing to the Assumption Parish Sheriff's Office. And at 10 a.m., the Sheriff's Office immediately dispatched a helicopter and deputies and fish and game wardens into that area. Several boats, ATVs started a grid search. February in Louisiana can get cold. Depending, excuse me. I'm getting over this. I'm way better than I was. Well, they searched for him for 2 days, nonstop. On February 5th, they got the Civil Air Patrol involved, and they put 2 planes in the sky. The search and rescue was initially managed by the state police and was transferred to the parish deputy. And ground teams were dispatched from Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Chase, Houma, New Orleans, several different locations. And they got a huge response. They said his last known location was northwest of Napoleonville, bordered on the east by the Mississippi and the west by Bayou Lafourche. February 9th, Sheriff Fallerman, head of the search and rescue now, made a grand statement. He said that Walter will be found alive. You rarely hear that kind of talk from anyone because it's such a wild card. You don't know the physical health or stamina of people, and to say that, you may be very embarrassed. He stated that the 3 men all stayed within shouting distance of each other when communication suddenly stopped after the heavy rains and everyone said they'd meet back at the car. And then nothing. He said his deputies and detectives took the 2 men, separated them, and interviewed them at length. And he said that his detectives, after several hours of interviewing, deemed the stories of the 2 men as credible and legitimate. They also interviewed Walter's family, friends, and they said that he had no mental health conditions, was regularly employed, in good physical health, and a known hunter. Search canines were on the scene daily, and no scent trail was ever picked up. At the end of the day on the 9th, the search was suspended because of bad weather. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? So they waited for the weather to improve, and what happens when these things go bad? They go really bad. On February 11th, when they thought it was starting to clear, the area got tornado warnings with several severe thunderstorms in the area. Weather Service said that there were winds to 50 miles an hour. All ground and air support was eliminated, and all boats were taken off the water because of high waves, because of high winds. And the SAR was suspended until further notice. And that was the last thing that anyone ever heard about Walter. And I searched forward 5 years, nothing. Not a thing. Now we all have to learn from these events. So number one thing, what can you learn? The mistake that the 2 men made, number one, They didn't use what they had right in their hands. Rifles. Shouting, horn, etc. Nothing like can carry a boom, boom, boom. They didn't do that. And Walter didn't do that. Now, right after they stated the heavy rain started, all communication stopped with him. Kind of fits with the long-term information I've given you over the years about bad weather and people disappearing. Now, Dave, why did you tell us this case? Well, they had multiple days of bad weather, number one. Number two, point of separation. The guys were separated. Bad weather moves in. They're yelling at each other, and suddenly all communication stops with Walter. A subgroup of the missing that I've talked to you about at length, and I've described hundreds of cases to you, are missing hunters. Hunters are different than hikers. Hikers normally stay on trails. Hunters don't. A hunter can walk into a lot of things that can kill him. And if you're alone and you don't have any help, that's not good. You could get in a position where you can't get out. Now, they said that they brought in canine sniffers and the dogs couldn't find a scent trail. Another primary point in missing 411 cases that we just can't ignore. Now, in this instance, water is everywhere. And water is one of those key points on all these cases. Now, again, as I said, Walter was never found. I've written the book Missing 411 Hunters, second edition. It's thick. It has cases from all over the US and Canada. In all of these cases, nobody had a personal locator beacon. Now, people have asked me, well, Dave, have people disappeared with personal locator beacons? Yes, but it is so extremely rare, it's not even worth talking about. I can only think of 2 cases out of tens of thousands where somebody disappeared with a PLB. Now, I realize that's not all the end all for everything. I've also told you before that when I'm in the wilderness, I also carry a sat phone, a satellite phone that goes from the phone straight up to a satellite. It doesn't go off the cell towers. But most new phones, cell phones, have personal locator beacon emergency transmission options on the phone. Most people don't even know that. So make sure if you're going to buy a new phone, get one that has that at the very least. The other thing, they never said that Walter had a map of that area. So did he get lost? Doubtful. Even if somebody gets lost, it doesn't mean that they're going to drop dead. So searchers should have heard him if he was lost. I'm glad to hear that the sheriff's office interviewed his 2 friends. That's key. And they interviewed them separately. Very important. It allows you to understand if the stories match. Important. So there's your 2 stories for today. 2 hunters, New York and Louisiana. Friends, very important notification. Pay attention. The cruise that I've told you about over and over and over, September, leaving out of Seattle. Well, I'm going to have a book release the day before the cruise, open to the public. Yes, you can come. Missing 411 Alaska. Yeah, the book is coming out the day of the cruise. Actually, the day before a cruise. And we're having a book signing event. Food, drinks, little get together on the water in Seattle. Now, I'll put the link on here under the number 1 pinned comment. Again, anybody can come. Now, don't ask about getting the book right now. It's not going to be available until after the cruise and after I get home and I can sit down and get my mind together. It won't be available until near the end of November. It is the most unusual Missing 411 book I've ever written. 400 pages. 90% is all new. And it comes at the 411 angle from an all new perspective. You're going to get blown away, trust me. And all new data from that state that nobody has ever talked about. I guarantee it'll be a whole new perspective on missing people. Now, I got to thank Marty and Nikki from Gather Up Events for doing this. They said, hey, Dave, let's do this for you. And the cool thing is, Chris Bledsoe is doing an event at my location right afterwards. So you can do both. Come to the book signing. When I'm done, it starts at 5 p.m., goes to 7:30. And when I'm done, Chris is going to do a presentation as well. If you've never met Chris, you want to stay for that and you'll want to see him. It's just on the outskirts of Seattle. All the information will be on the link. You need to sign up. Limited places. This isn't a huge facility, so get there, pre-order the book, and I'm grateful that anyone listens. So thank you. And again, Missing 411 Alaska will be available on our website, missing411.com, at the end of September. But be one of the first to get it before the cruise. Be safe. Kindness is key. Paulides out.